someone that we've interviewed multiple times. We've flown to Madrid. We were the first, PBD and myself were the first people to interview Andrew Tate after he was canceled. That was in September of 2022. Then we were the first podcast, long-form podcast, to interview him after he was released from jail. That was last year in 2023. So fair to say, full disclosure, we like the Tates. We're rooting for the Tates. And I think what's going on with this guy is sort of absurd. Similar type of thing has happened recently to Russell Brand, but what happened to the Tates is a complete anomaly. But we haven't really said Andrew Tate's name in months, right? He's been off house arrest. He's able to travel, do their thing out in Bucharest, Romania. And then boom, 2 days ago, breaking news, they're arrested again and they're attempting to extradite him into the UK. So do we have that article, Malik? So Andrew Tate's been detained in Romania on quote unquote, here it is guys, wait for it, sexual aggression. Was it recently? How recent was it? 2012. They're going back and it just seems completely like a sham, complete fabrication, but that's my opinion. These alleged sexual aggression charges date back to 2012 to 2015 following an arrest warrant issued by the UK authorities. Lawyers representing 4 women asked British police to immediately seek Tate's extradition after receiving info, and here it is, this is the weird part, I didn't even know this, from his friend, now I assume foe, Adin Ross.
Dang.
Do you know who Adin Ross is?
The streamer
Okay,
kid?
the streamer kid. So anyway, go back to the article, see what we have that. So, so
Andrew Tate faces extradition to UK over rape and
basically, here's my opinion, and we'll play the clip from Adin Ross, and we're going to let Colby and the panel weigh in on what they think is going on here. But, because we've covered Andrew Tate so much on this podcast, because we've interviewed him multiple times, and quite frankly, we're rooting for the guy to fucking get these charges beat. When something like this pops up, we're like, what the hell's going on here now? But in my opinion, humble opinion, then I want to get Colby's opinion and the lady's opinion, he's been charged with nothing in Romania. Like, there's nothing going on there. They arrested him without cause. They're just scrambling, looking for stuff, and they have nothing. And Romania's like, I don't know what to do with this guy. And in my humble opinion, the UK, for whatever reason, is like, you know what? We'll find something. Send him to us, extradite him to the UK, we'll figure this thing out. And it all apparently leaked from this stream right here that Malik's going to pull up from Adin Ross. Let's play this clip.
Andrew had hit me up. He said, hey, I'm going to be leaving Romania soon and probably never coming back. If you want to come over and do a week of long streams and content before I leave, I think it'll be big. And he said it's basically now or never. And this is just, I told you guys this year, it's a week of content, right? And again, guys, it might be the last time we ever do this. So it's kind of like we got to take advantage of it now because, hey, bro, it's basically like, it's like that. And then.
Okay, so there that was. So if you recall, Tate arrested, I think it was December of 2022. We interviewed him September of 2022. The human trafficking allegations, this is like their playbook. Sexual, whatever, human trafficking, whatever, something with sex. He's beaten all those charges. Now they're using Adin Ross's, this is what we've come to in this world today. Adin Ross doing a live stream on Twitch, whatever he does. Lawyers see this in the UK. They recommend the authorities in Romania to arrest him without cause. Anyway, Adin Ross. It's kind of mind-boggling. I'm trying to follow the pieces here. But Colby, I don't know if you're a fan of Tate, if you've watched his content, you probably, if you're in this world, you're a fighter, he was a fighter. Make sense in your opinion of what you think is going on here.
Yeah, I mean, you can't make sense of it. I'm friends with Tristan Tate, and he's implicated in it as well. He went to jail with Andrew. I respect both those guys. They're martial artists, and they're deep intellects. They're smart guys. They're intelligent. They're businessmen. They're God-fearing men, and most of all, they just go against the grain. And I really think that's just those 3-letter agencies, the FBI's, the CIAs that we have in America over there in another country are just weaponizing against them. Mm-hmm. And look, it's baseless claims. There's nothing where's the facts? Where's the factual evidence that they did these things? This is just some girl saying this 12 years ago, and and we're just going to take her word for it because it's the Me Too movement. So this stuff's going on in America right now. Look at Trump. Look at the girl, the Jeannie E. Carroll case. She can just say, oh, he did this. And then the stuff in New York, you know, they can say, oh, he inflated the prices, but he never actually did that. The banks testified and said that, you know, hey, he paid back the loans in full and times some, and he was a great business partner. So it's sad what's going on around the world right now, and the elites are teaming up and they're weaponizing, you know, the law enforcement against people.
So, you know, they're going back decades. They'll go back as far as they want for sexual misconduct. Like, it's happened to Trump, this E. Jean Carroll situation. Obviously, how much did he have to pay her?
Yeah, he had to pay her $100 million.
$100 million for, quote unquote, graping her at a, like, Macy's changing room. What was it?
I think it was Bergdorf Goodman.
Bergdorf Goodman, which is basically a higher end Macy's, whatever it was. Okay. So it just, we've seen what happened with Russell Brand. And with the Me Too movement, when it started with Harvey Weinstein in Hollywood, people are like, okay, like, yeah, let's have some accountability here. And just like the pendulum swings, there's corrections and there's overcorrections. So should women be treated fairly? Sure. But then it turned into believe all women. And it's like, all right, like I know some crazy ass women, okay? Some have been on this panel before. I don't believe all of anybody, Colby, right? So now they're just basically saying, they don't have any names of these girls. They're allegedly running around the UK. Do you know Andrew Tate? Did anything happen to you? Like they're offering money for these people. It just seems like, it's almost like they're trying to find the guilt rather than innocent until proven guilty. Mm-hmm. That's just what they seem.
Yeah.
So we've seen it happen with Trump. We've seen it happen with Russell Brand. We've seen it happen with Tate now, the Tates, what's going on, that human trafficking. You know, the funny thing about the Tate interview, and I want to get the lady's perspective on this, he goes, they're accusing me of keeping women hostage and taking their TikTok money. Right? As if TikTok even pays money. I think they pay literally like 10 cents per 10,000 views. So if you do the math on that, you make like $20 or $100 at the most per 1 million views. Like this guy's a multimillionaire already, and you think he's just keeping women hostage to take that TikTok money. That's literally what he's allegedly charged with here. So doesn't it just seem like they're just going after this woke DEI agenda after just successful straight men? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. You know, they want betas. They don't want alphas out there because betas can be controlled. Mm-hmm. You know, alphas, we're not going to be controlled. You're not going to tell me what I'm going to do. You know, I dictate what I do. I'm a boss. I made a good life for my lifestyle, so you can't tell me how I'm going to live my life. But they know that, you know, these soy boys out of California, you know, these woke ideologists, they can just brainwash these guys, and they're going to believe all the propaganda they feed down their throat. So, you know, it's just, that's what Andrew and Tristan don't represent. They don't represent that. They're not going to be fed propaganda from the media, and they're not going to follow through with that. They're going to stand up, and they're going to stand on what they believe in, and that's why I respect those guys so much.
So let me get the ladies' opinion on this. I'll start with you, Pixie. You just said that your job is to connect streamers with politicians. So you got our guy out here, Adin Ross. I'm sure he feels like an absolute idiot right now. Yeah. You know, here he is just saying, yeah, I'm going to go out to Romania. It's like, what is it, loose lips sink ships, you know, snitches get stitches. I don't think he intentionally tried to do anything wrong. But, you know, how much involvement did you have connecting these streamers with these politicians, Pixie? Yeah. What's your thoughts of what's going on here? I assume, are you a fan of Tate, not a fan of Tate? What have you said publicly about him before?
I am definitely not a fan of Tate. I think what he has done, I think most people would constitute as human trafficking. And he's talked about it before. You can look at the PhD program. You can look at videos of him where he's explicitly said that his strategy is to get women to fall in love with him, get feelings for him, whatever, and then coerce them / push them into sex work, which is like the most common form of trafficking. I think whether you're conservative or progressive, you can look at that and say like, hey, you know what? Women shouldn't be pressured into doing sex work. And I think, like, speaking to a conservative audience, to me it is kind of confusing how so many people can be pro-Tate in this aspect when what he does is advocate or at least has repeatedly advocated for a form of, I would argue, degeneracy, right? This idea of like, oh no, like, you know, you're in love with me, so show your body off to the internet so I can make money off of it. Just seems strange to me.
But don't you think that's their choice, as though like someone who would accept that? Like, you can't force someone to do that either, wouldn't you say? Or what would you say to that?
It depends on what you're doing, right? So if he's said in the past, which I believe there's text messages that show like, oh yeah, take away like their passport, basically make them like become financially reliant on you, make sure that you have control over the finances basically completely, and then give them a stipend off of that it's not enough to like necessarily escape or be able to like build separate, then those are very real forms of coercion that limit a person's free choice.
So Pixie, allow me for a second, because sometimes someone will hear what you have to say and be like, holy shit, he's holding these women hostage. He made them fall in love with him. It's called the lover boy method. You've heard this before, where he love bombs them. So then they literally pick up from where they're at, move to Romania, and then they're held hostage. The reality is this: women have a choice in this matter. If they're in love, they are under no obligation to work. I want to get Farah's opinion. She does OnlyFans. Okay, I assume you take dudes' money gladly. Willingly, no problem, right? But see, the whole scenario here is that these women, there's a lot of women out there, or a lot of people that will probably hear what you have to say, and that's like, that's right, he's a trafficker, that's how it works. Okay, he's been found guilty of nothing, zero. So let me ask you, if let's just, in a hypothetical world, Andrew Tate, you fall in love with Andrew and Tristan Tate. You pick up from Miami, move to Romania, and you end up doing webcam business. I don't even think that's what they were doing, because I think the business was years prior. At any point, if you felt uncomfortable, whether it was with the Tates or any sort of online pimp, what would you do? Would you just get your shit and leave? Or would you feel summoned to stay there under a spell? Like, what would you do?
Well, I mean, the key component there that you mentioned is the spell. They're manufacturing this boyfriend experience that the girls feel coerced and compelled to stay in that situation because they think my boyfriend is not going to put me in a dangerous position. And it's not just like the girl naturally fell in love with him. Like, if you look at the text logs, he was manufacturing, like I said, that boyfriend experience, which is kind of like a key component of why it's considered sex trafficking.
So he's guilty of lying about his feelings? Okay, I've lied to girls all my life to get them to sleep with me. That's what guys do. Girls fall in love with their ears. Guys fall in love with their eyes. You're hot, you got some big ass titties, you got a fat ass, boom, I'm in love. That's just kind of how it works. A guy will tell a girl, hey girl, you're so this, I'm gonna do this for you, whatever.
Hashtag me too.
Guy, zero allegations on me, right? I'm just saying, girls fall in love with their ears. Guys will tell a girl anything. So if we're gonna say that Andrew Tate or Tristan Tate are guilty of smooth talking a girl, you know who's next? Every fucking guy out there. Hey, I do this, I make this, I'm gonna take you here. So, by the way, girls lie more than men, but you lie visually. Your titties ain't that big, okay? You ain't that tall, those are heels. Your hair ain't that long, okay? Like, we can go down the list. You don't look like that online. I've seen you Facetune some stuff. Like, it's all fraudulent. So if we're gonna start holding people accountable for lying, we're all guilty.
But even when you are in love with somebody, there's a point where if you're in love, that's probably why some people go into a relationship for so long. They eventually become fed up and then they eventually do leave. Keeping someone there held hostage is like, you don't get any food, you don't get to see sunlight, you know, like you still have a choice to be like, you know, I want to be out of this relationship. Even if it's a hard way out of the relationship, it's not going to be easy, you know, if that's the case, but you still have a choice, you know? That's why people stay in a relationship for 10 years. They're like, yeah, you know, it was an abusive relationship, but I stayed. And it's like, well, they stayed. So you also have to see kind of both sides, you know, even if that was the case and he was love bombing, like, you know, at the end of the day, women they like what they hear. They're going to stay. And if they get to a point where they're fed up, they'll leave. I promise you. They'll leave. They'll figure out a way to leave.
Thank you, Nat.
I wasn't
Amy,
just what they hear either. I'm sure he was buying them things. They were in a nice house, like all these things. Like you said, they weren't strapped to a wall, like confined somewhere.
Because
and then, you're to make your videos now. Okay, no, go back.
But
no,
even
they were probably
okay,
having
I'm going to pick up and move. You better make sure you're getting paid before I go pick up and move. I want to see some type of like, why am I moving? Oh, you do this. You have this. I see your money. I see. Okay, even if I go and I give you all my responsibility, I know for sure I'm going to live a certain lifestyle. I'm going to get a certain amount of things from you too. I don't think these girls just pick up out of Miami and be like, all right, I'm gonna be just like not eating.
No,
like,
it was a two-way street, so they got tired of it. Yeah,
you know. And at the end of the day, I also don't know who these women are. These women are also uncovered women that we don't have anyone to fight for that side too. So it's kind of a hard argument to be like, well, she's right. Like, look at her. You know, look at the marks from them holding her hostage. It's like the argument is so weak
been no
on the other
allegation.
side for
By the way,
actually,
on the contrary,
it's all BS. It's all fabricated. But you know, people only read the headlines: human trafficker, you know, misogynist. But then when you ask them, like, well, what did he do? What did he say? They're always like, I don't like him. You can't be guilty of crimes because you don't like what somebody says. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
so by the way,
there's evidence that would suggest otherwise. I'm not sure if you guys ever heard this story, but there's a story that went around that he actually spoke with an underage girl. It was a daughter of a Romanian politician, and he was sending her like emojis over Instagram DMs, and these emojis could be construed as sometimes like what the FBI likes to consider like pedo symbols. And during his first arrest, or one of the later arrests, when the two other women were involved, I believe some people were alleging they're like Ghislaine Maxwell's, similar to like Jeffrey Epstein. These two women were also posting the same symbol as a strawberry. So I did a little digging into it, and I think that Andrew Tate is a false idol. I believe that conservative men desperately are looking for someone who's holding Christian conservative values, like traditional values, and he fills that void because he has talking points that fit what they want to hear. And I think we as a culture really need more people that are good examples.
So I have you're blowing my mind right now because I got to tell you, you work for the Trump campaign.
I don't work for the Trump campaign.
Sorry. You work
I want to correct, and then my views are my own, so I want to make that clear.
All good. But what I'm saying is, like, I would say that Tate and Trump are kind of built from the same cloth. Masculine guys say what they want to say, surround themselves with hot ass chicks, have nice cars, planes, what have you. Like Donald Trump, I think at one point owned Miss Universe.
Correct.
Okay, so
I actually competed under Miss USA system. So
okay, there you go. So you know, and you would hear stories. I never believe them per se. There's things I'll believe about Trump, but then there's like, he owned like Miss Teen US. He would walk in the room and say like, "Hi, ladies," and then you would hear stories like, "He's a pedo." He goes, it's like it's all BS.
Well, what's so amazing is
here's my question to you: how can you be like so pro-Trump, and like be like, and that's cool, I respect that, but then so anti-Tate?
Well, I actually love that Colby brought up the CIA and the agencies because Tate has said himself in interviews that his father was CIA.
Yeah.
So as we know, like, the Mockingbird media does such a great job of burying stories. They have you ever seen Wag the Dog? It's a movie all about how news is created to distract from other things. So, I mean, a man like that has plenty of access, considering his network, to do whatever he needs to do to give out the right stories. I think Donald Trump is an example of a true alpha, and true alphas don't need to say that they're alpha. It's the energy that leads. So I think they're two separate men, but, you know, sometimes you got to run in circles.
Colby, let me get you way on this, because you're a fan of Trump. I mean, you're the Trump of the UFCs. You're his favorite fighter, but you also had some very, you know, positive words about Tate. When you hear her say this, is there sort of cognitive dissonance there? What would you say to her?
You know, I would say to her, definitely you got to look deep under the surface. You know, you can't believe. You got to find out who's the source of who told you that story. You know, like is it someone that's credible? You know, or is it someone that just is making up a fake allegation? So I've done a lot of research on those guys, and from what I've seen on the surface, like there's nothing that's sticking stuff for them being criminals and these pedos and human traffickers, like everybody tries to say. So, you know, I haven't found that article, and I haven't found the source that's a credible source to bury them. So,
well said, Amy. I know that this is a story you've obviously been familiar with, just Tate.
Yeah.
Also, even like the underage stuff, you've talked about this before. Make sense of what you think is going on here in this world.
Well, just to kind of backtrack and kind of touch on a few things that people have said here, I think that we have a tendency to go to like one of two extremes, right? And I don't think that we need to say that women, especially those who experience Stockholm syndrome and mental illness, are never going to leave an abuser, because that is patently false, and spreading that narrative is actually really harmful for women who are in abusive situations, who need to reclaim the agency to get out. It is extremely difficult to do so, and I've witnessed this firsthand. Now, does that make Tate an abuser? Does that mean that he was the one who, did this to these women? From the research that I've done, I would very much disagree. I've looked into each of the 4 victims, the ones that were alleged victims, the ones that were publicly named, 2 of which came forward and said that they weren't even victims in the first place. And the police continued to throw out their statement over and over and over again. Then after that, they had Emma Gabby and this other woman, I forget what her name is off the top of my head, Attila, I believe is her last name. But the 2 of them, there's evidence of them colluding on this thing to actually criminalize the Tates.
Correct.
And Emma Gabby had a long-standing history of sex work. She had a long-standing history of actually making false accusations against men, some of them powerful men, in order to extort money and resources from them. So when the primary allegations are coming from this specific person, she's the catalyst. She's the reason why the police went there and searched her house, the Tate's house, in the first place. When she's the primary catalyst behind this, and she's able to be discredited just due to her past so quickly, I think that the rest of the story kind of falls down around that, to be honest.
Well, let's just pretend that we're the jury for a second, because I want to move on to the next story, which also involves Tate and a UFC fighter. Pretend we're the jury. Okay, I'll be the judge right now. I'll say, all right, each one of you, give me your verdict, guilty or innocent. Let's start down here.
He's guilty. I couldn't
Guilty. Okay, what do you think?
I would need all the evidence to give a true claim here, because I know headlines are headlines. But I would say guilty if proven with the correct evidence.
Oh, interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, same. I would have to read up more on the case, but I'm not going to think that the verdict is faulty just because there's like some elite conspiracy against him or anything.
So you would give him what? Guilty or innocent verdict?
I'd have to read up on the case, but I would trust the courts, is my point.
So what would you give?
I don't know.
You're not under oath
case.
here, baby girl. Just say one of the 2. We'll move on.
I haven't followed the case that closely at all.
Really? Okay.
Really.
Padrino.
Yeah, again, I don't know enough. I would say innocent as of now because I haven't found anything. But I want to say to what you were saying, I do think conservatives are desperate and starving for an actual, like, an alpha male, like you were saying. So we cling to somebody like and I'm saying we, like, as conservatives, cling to somebody like the Tates because they're speaking what we think is, like, truth, just what we saying about the Oscars gone gay and all this other kind of stuff. So we're clinging to that. I do think that there's better role models that there could be out there. But as of right now, I think they just need to, I've said that, I literally said this last time we talked about him months ago on here. Leave the Tates alone. Like, stop digging for stuff. So, and I was, what Amy said, there's a couple people that spoke up and said it was all fabricated. So just let it die already.
And
so
one thing
I would say,
I want to make is there's a difference between locker room talk. You know, we all have brothers, or I at least did, and I love my brothers, my brother and his friends. But there's a difference between locker room talk and some of the other things that are being discussed. So
that's the thing. I don't know enough about the strawberry and about the this and then the Jelaine.
He brought up Trump and the comments that were raised when his campaign was happening about, you know, things that he may have said to women. I think locker room talk's a lot different than other situations.
Right. So yeah, I'm not even comparing the two at all. Yeah, both.
So now strawberry emojis is a guilty verdict? What's happening right now?
Careful.
Okay.
Well, I thought it was said in public.
I mean, look, I've sent an eggplant or 2. I'm fucking going to jail forever now.
No, I don't understand. It's your choice to reply. Whether they send you the purple one, the pink one, the yellow one, whatever they want to send, it's your choice to also reply. Like, you could use that and say, no, thank you. Or you can play along and try and get the evidence, but then what's like... So it's like, when do you also take like accountability as like, hey, I'm entertaining this too? And this happens all the time. You know how many rappers are in girls' DMs? They're like, hey, you want to fly out? And girls are like, yeah, I do want to fly out. And it's like, is it his fault or is it her fault? Like, I don't know. I'm just being like honest because stop. Like, I'm just being honest because, and it's important that even girls learn that skill to say no, thank you. You know, like. It's intriguing. You have someone like a Tate, like, hey, you want to come to Romania, fly you out, take you on a yacht, and it's like, I've never been anywhere. You know, it's you also have to be as women take accountable, say no, thank you. If they're being creeps, and it's going to come out. It's going to happen by itself.
Guilty or innocent in your eyes?
I say innocent until proven guilty.
That's just
I
how
would
it
like
should
to
be.
see the women who've been offended. I would like to see them.
Yeah, I actually have a whole video about this where I go through the court documents on my YouTube, and actually the prior cases brought against Emma Gabby. I think that he's innocent, in my opinion.
Okay, and Colby Covington, he gets the final vote here.
Yeah, innocent until proven guilty by a court of law.
That's right, not court of public opinion. This ain't no kangaroo court. By the way, I'll just say one thing. Women, I'm going to need you to take some accountability in general, because you can't have it both ways. Hear me out. On one hand, who runs the world? Girls, girl bosses, the future is female, and then it's the patriarchy. They're coming after us. I don't know. I feel like a second-class citizen. I don't really have a choice here. Pick a path, ladies. Are you the girl boss that runs the world, or does the patriarchy run the world? Like, you're kind of playing both sides here. So when it works for you, you know, it works against you. It's like, oh my God, I'm just a sweet little innocent girl. I can't do anything for myself. But when you want to basically shit on men and hold them accountable, it's like, I run the world, girls. So pick a path, ladies. Malik, guilty or innocent for our friend Tate?
Innocent until proven guilty. Like, everybody's destroying objectivity. There's the, because it's some triggered topic, they just want to say he's guilty just because, without actually looking at the facts. And also just giving him a chance to actually prove that he's done wrong. Nobody wants to do that anymore.
Got it.
And this also, last thing, this also makes it look bad for the people who actually are victims of these things. Because what happens is that when girls actually do have this problem with the man, and it's like, oh, it's just one of those fake cases, and maybe this girl was actually being abused and he was holding girls in their garage and keeping them hostage. Like, so it's like, you got to be also careful. Like, if you're going to come out and say something, bring the facts, because the people who are struggling, like I think Amy just said, you know, people say like, oh, I can't leave a relationship. You can. It's just showing that, hey, when you talk, we listen. But when you talk and it's bullshit. It's
and by the way, one last thing. We played videos on the show before. You remember this, of girls that we played. It was on the, what's the Adam 22 podcast? No Jumper?
No Jumper.
Of the girl full on admitting on camera, oh, I called the cops. I faked it. I said that I got beat up.
Totally.
Like, we've seen this before. So,
sad.
Ladies.
One very fascinating thing, very quick, just to wrap this up. It's interesting that now he's being extradited to the UK. In Romania, there is no jury system, right? It's just purely by judge.
The judge.
And based off the facts, obviously he's been able to be released on house arrest, all these things. Now he's going to have to face a jury. And what do you think the court of public opinion is about Andrew Tate?
Depends if it's a male or female jury. I'll tell you this. When we were there and we spent the entire day and we had lunch and filming and we were smoking hookah and all that, by the way, he had some of the most gorgeous girls in the world that were serving us the coffee, you know, hey, can I get you anything? Like, Vinny fell in love. Like, our friend Vinny, he was like, oh my God, look at this girl here. I'm like, Vinny, be professional. I was like, oh, you know what? Like, but those girls could have left at any freaking time they wanted. So, like, you have this a delusion that these girls are in dungeons and that it's like they're walking around doing whatever the hell they want to do. They can leave at any point. Whoa, whoa, whoa. If you like that one, click right here to watch the full SOSCAST. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.